not just switch it on, because it's not fair for you to record you if you don't want me to do that. So, yeah, our classes are a little bit different from the traditional ones in the sense that there's not as much preparation that's needed. So for our teachers, it's quite an advantage in the sense that in a way you can just turn up for a lesson and present it if you've obviously seen the material before. You can't present something that you don't expect. But over time, when you present the material several times, you know what's coming up. And if I need a teacher to cover me, I can say, hey, Franco, can you cover me for the next lesson? And he can just slot in and cover that. So there isn't the need to prepare a lesson plan, because the lesson plan is working from the book. Yeah. So during the lesson, the students have their books closed and the teacher asks the questions. In my case, I have the book up on the screen. So I ask the questions of the students I'm watching, and I'm listening to pick up mistakes. So what I want is for them to speak clearly, to pronounce properly, and I'm correcting all the time with the usual, they're missing the past tense endings, starting the words that begin with an S with an E instead, not Stephen. They say S Stephen. No, not that. So I'm correcting that all the time. So part of what we're about is trying to go beyond just the basic grammar teaching. This is this, and try to work a lot on the pronunciation and the accent and correcting people in the moment as quickly as possible, so that we can move on. So what we need more than anything is people that the language is like second nature. So a first language speaker, when you hear a mistake, you don't always know what the rule is that was broken in that flash of an instant. You just know that doesn't sound right. And you correct the student, and while you're correcting, right, yeah, it's because it was the wrong kind of clause that they were using. And by the time you've made the correction, you remember which rule it is they've broken. But the most important thing is that kind of instinct for knowing when something's right and wrong. And what that means is that teachers who speak English as a first language have a much better time of it than teachers that are recently out of university and have got all the qualifications. So it's very difficult for us to get the right fit of the kind of the instinct for the language, a reasonable knowledge of the grammar, and that enthusiasm to drive the students forward. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for. So I've spent a lot of time going through all of the curriculums that I've seen. So that's why I'm quite interested in what you've done.
I've done a lot, and I've also lived in the States for a couple of years, but that was like many years ago. And then my daughter's been living there, and I also got relatives there. But the thing is that, yeah, I know what you mean. But in order to get that, I think you need somebody who has lived or traveled or, been part of a culture just to pick this that you want to spot when somebody speaks. That's I know it's not easy, and it's not easy for anybody that's been living here for many years. I mean, but come on. Oh,
Yeah.
well, all right.
Yeah.
Teaching, I know all about grammar. You also been living there, and I also been working with natives. I mean, with all because I've worked for publishing companies for many years, so whose managers or CEOs were Americans or British, basically. So
which do you refer, the British or the Americans?
Americans.
Oh, and I'm British.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I'm sorry. The Americans.
Yeah. Why do
Yeah,
you like the
definitely.
Americans? Or why don't you like the
I
British?
don't
Probably
know.
more important.
It's not that I don't like. I feel more comfortable among Americans. I think it's their style. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
like the culture. Oh, well, I don't know. That's kind of their style, something that is like different from us. Okay, it's like, well, they're Europeans. It's well, you feel it. It's like there
Hmm.
is a certain detail. She's like, "Oh, all right. I don't know. I know. I just do feel I've been among many and Americans. I feel the most. Besides, I've been living there, so it's like okay, we also as I could also share certain things. Okay,
Hmm.
so
So what did you do when you lived in the
mm,
States?
yeah. Well, I worked there as an op. Well, basically, first I went because I was studying for ICANA, which was one of
Hmm.
the main English institute here in Cordova. So, and I got kind of a scholarship living with a family. Okay. And since I was about to be 21, so then I was offered a job as an au pair there. So I lived an extra year and just living, okay, just living and working with a family. And then I was studying, but what I studied was something related to arts and museums and all that stuff that is like those courses, but I mean nothing
Hmm.
basically interesting that could affect my study, okay. And that was it. And then when my daughter traveled, also she worked as she was as an au pair there, and yeah, she had a great experience.
Hmm.
Great, it was great actually,
And then you
both of
worked
us.
at Macmillan as
But
well,
we were young.
you said.
Then
Yeah.
Oxford,
So what was
okay,
that like?
yep. I was first. Well, for Macmillan, it was different. I started as an representative, sales representative, and then I got into being academic, okay, consultant, and then checking on the books and doing some research on the kind of books that were needed and the kind of material the teachers needed, okay. And well, I was also in charge of the whole bunch of, or the other sales representative. We did have a couple in Mendoza as well. Okay, so I was based in Cordova, and from there I was like the coordinator, recruit the coordinator, and everything for all the other reps,
Was it
sales representatives.
was that
Okay,
mainly on the language side of things, or was that across the whole spectrum of education? Because Macmillan do everything, don't they? It's not just language education books.
no, it was just about education.
Yeah, but not just language, all of
But it does
education.
everything. No, not
Mm.
just language. Yeah, I mean the research of books. I mean events
Hmm.
and but everything that is connected to books and to selling basically, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
and to provide and to choosing the right. I was probably working really well in Europe, and then it had to be tested here. So okay, that was basically, but it had to do with just mm, being there with teachers, for teachers, providing material, okay, suitable material,
Hmm.
selling, but with a whole batch, okay.
And
Yeah.
and then you mentioned earlier that you're working for two companies, is it at the moment? Two schools online.
No schools, just English services that is in Buenos Aires, based in Buenos Aires,
Hmm.
and which of course they work with different companies, okay,
Yeah.
globally.
Hmm.
Well, Globant is one of them,
Yeah.
okay, because all right, it's in Uruguay also. Well, this one has employees all over the world, and then I just work for my students that really wow. I got a LinkedIn profile, probably, I don't know, that attracts students because I got many students, okay, prepare for IELTS or for just any exam,
Hmm.
Cambridge exams, basically,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
basically,
So
okay.
our
And
students.
as face-to-face activity, I'm just an oral examiner, all right?
Oh, okay.
So I
Yeah.
just work
Yeah.
for
So
Cambridge.
so our students are a slightly different profile. We don't generally work with children. Um,
I don't work.
yeah, most of our students are professional
at-
people. So sort of so 30s, early 30s onwards. So like I mentioned before, we have a lot of relationships with professional organizations here in Mendoza, and to some extent at the level of the country. And so the people generally that we work with are intelligent, professional people. We don't like to work with children. We have occasionally accepted children, but generally our philosophy is that we only want students that want to learn with us. We don't want children that have been sent by their parents to learn with us.
No.
We have a good success record with children, but we don't want that. We want people that really want to be here. So
and that I guess also, I mean, children well, you need lots of energy. I mean, to be working with children, it's different. It's a different target. I wouldn't work with children.
Yeah. They're nice in small.
I mean, I love them. I got some, but that's enough.
Yes. Yeah. Well, in order to teach with us, because it's a kind of special way of teaching, we need to do some training before we start. So I have to train the teachers a bit before we put them in front of a lesson. So because it's not fair to just explain what it is and then get on with it. So it requires a certain level of training in order to be able to stand up and present with this kind of method. So the training takes a week or two to do. It's not full-time training, but it's like 1 hour every now and again that we will fit in with your timetable in order to do that, because we need to practice teaching with this method. Okay, so we need to do that before we put you in front of a group of students. So that's a very important thing for us. And unfortunately, we can't pay for your time when you're training. It's something that we provide for free, and it's something that we like the teachers to participate in as well, so that they're prepared in order to give those lessons. Yeah, so it takes like 4 lessons one-on-one with me, and then what we do after that is to do some practice with some volunteers, and then once that all works out fine, then we start to do some lessons with real students. But the initial kind of training is important to do, because this method, when you watch somebody give a lesson with this, it looks reasonably easy to do. But when you're a teacher and you have to give a lesson with this method, it's not as easy as it looks. You know, the teachers that are skilled in giving this lesson make it look easier. But it just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of time to get on top of that. Yeah. So if you're happy with that, then that's an important thing for us as well, to spend some time training before we put you in front of students. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm not that sure about that.
Okay, that's fair enough.
First of all, because I was like, first of all, because I think I got lots of experience. Okay, now if you tell me what to do, I will just say it's okay. I know, I understand all the procedures and all the things that you're. But actually, I don't know if I want to spend hours just doing something that I have, or training on something that I already know how to.
No, that's fine.
I'm not being paid for that.
No, that's fine. That's part of the reason for having a Zoom meeting like this, is that we can go through those things, so you know what's involved before you make a decision, and for me to get to know you before we make a decision as well. So that's not a problem for me. That I understand where you're coming from, and it's not something that all teachers are happy to teach as well, because it's a lot more structured than they're used to. So a lot of teachers have their own ideas about the way that students learn, and they sometimes have difficulty in changing that paradigm for the one that we put forward. Yeah. So I know, I perfectly understand that, and I think that's perfectly reasonable. So I don't want to oblige you to do something that you're not prepared to do. So that's fine. I perfectly understand that. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Well, all right.
So it was very nice speaking to you, Fernanda. So thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate it because I know
Yes.
you have a busy schedule, and for you it's important to this time. Okay, so we'll wind it up here. Okay, and I wish you a very good weekend and lots of success with your lessons. And if you're ever in need of anything that we can help you with, please feel free to contact us. If you want to find out a little bit more about what we do or talk to us about what we do, we're perfectly happy for you to get in touch. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really nice meeting you, Stephen.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, okay. Have a nice rest of the week.
Okay. Thanks for that much of the week. Bye bye, Fernanda. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.